first thing that I got to talk about is this college football playoff. So here is the college football playoff. The games are set to be scheduled on New Year's Day, which is a Monday this year or next year. I never thought about that. Next year, I guess it'll be New Year's Day, Monday. Michigan, the number 1 seed, will take on the number 4 seed Alabama at 5 p.m. on ESPN. And Washington, the number 2 seed, will take on the number 3 seed Texas at 8:45 p.m. The Michigan-Alabama game will be the Rose Bowl. The Washington-Texas game will be the Sugar Bowl. So here's the thing. People are rather upset, not about Michigan, not about Washington, not about Texas. People are pretty much okay with those 3 teams. People have no grievance. Obviously, all 3 of them, well, with the exception of Texas, undefeated, won their conference. Pretty hard to argue their spots in the playoffs. But one Alabama, who I've been saying on this show, you can go back, I've been saying they're a sneaky team to make the playoff. I would not be shocked if they won out and they won the SEC. I would not be shocked if the committee didn't put them in to the playoff. And, one thing did shock me about this is that they did not put Georgia in. Now, Georgia has almost a perfect season. They lose their first game in 29 games. We went over, I want to say a couple of shows ago, they had gone like 2 years without losing a football game, and Alabama hands them their first L. It's crazy. I don't know if you're a newer Georgia fan. I can't imagine. That's just like, you probably don't even know how to mentally take what it is like to lose. As a Michigan State fan myself, I learn about that basically every week. I'm learning about it tonight with my basketball team. That's neither here nor there. So there are 2 minds of this, because there's a team that I have not mentioned that is most at grievous, and that would be the Florida State Seminoles. So Florida State, they go out and they win their conference championship, and we'll talk a little bit about that game because that game was not good, but they win their conference championship. They go 13-0, a perfect season in a Power 5 conference. Alabama, of course, losing to Texas, who is in the playoff, to be fair, but a 12-1 season, not undefeated. So from the abstract, from just that, it seems so clear. Of course, Florida State gets in. One problem, Florida State doesn't have a quarterback. It's not simply that they're on their second string. They were on their third string quarterback in that conference championship game, and it showed. The product on the field was much worse without Jordan Travis on there. Much, much worse. But I want to give fair arguments, because I've heard 2 sides of this, and I want to give the best argument for why Florida State should have made it and why Florida State should not have made it in favor of Alabama. So first, on the Florida State side, you go undefeated. You are in a Power 5 conference. You win your conference. It's pretty much implied by going undefeated. And even despite the fact that you lose your starting quarterback, you still go out and you play the games and you win the games. That is impressive. To be fair, Louisville was not a terrible team. There's a good chance Louisville could have won that game, but you went out with your third string quarterback, and was it ugly? Yep. Was it just the worst football I've ever seen? Maybe not totally. I had to watch Michigan State this year, but it was a bad game. It was not good, but you won it. And so, if you're Florida State, if you're the rest of those players, if you're Keon Coleman, if you're any of the guys on the defense who, hey, they went out, they played a great game. Louisville didn't score at all. What are you supposed to do? If you're the coach, if you're the athletic director, what the playoff committee is essentially saying is, look, we understand that on paper, you had the better season. You went 13-0, but Alabama right now is the better team. Not over the whole season, but right now, Alabama is the better team. And that flips us to the Alabama argument. Alabama, obviously losing the 1 game, but they lose it to a playoff team in Texas. They lose it to the 3 seed. And since that game, have won every single game. They have not lost a game since they lost to Texas. And some of those wins were not pretty. Some of those wins were close. I'm looking at the Auburn game. I'm even looking at the Southern Florida game. That game was not pretty. But Jaden Milroe has gotten, or Jalen Milroe, not Jaden Milroe. I get Jaden Daniels and Jalen Milroe mixed up. it doesn't help that we have two SEC quarterbacks that have incredibly similar names and are both really good quarterbacks. It's its whole thing. But you're stuck where Jalen Monroe has looked far better since that Texas game. Like every game he has gotten better, including in that Auburn game and especially in that Georgia game. And not only does Alabama win their conference, which is a Power 5 conference, arguably this season the second best, if not the best conference in football, in college football, but they also knock off the reigning two-time national champions. Like, to me, when I saw that they win that game, I thought, okay, I don't know how. I think at this point the committee is begging Louisville to win their game because the committee had to make a decision. And I think they started with the precedent that, okay, Alabama beating the national champion, winning the SEC, that matters more relative to their one loss than Florida State. Assuming Florida State did not go into their conference championship game and just destroy, look absolutely fantastic. I think if Florida State would have went into that championship game and looked like the Florida State of week 1 when they were destroying LSU, I think there's no question they would have gotten it. But they didn't. They looked very bad. They looked like they were a very different team without Jordan Travis, which makes perfect sense. And I don't really know where I fall on this because I'm sort of in a weird camp where, look, if it was up to me, if it was my choice, if I was the arbiter of college football, I wouldn't even have a playoff. It's ridiculous. It's college football. Bring back the BCS. You know who should be the national championship game? It should be Michigan and it should be Washington in the Rose Bowl national championship game. That's it. That's what it should be. That would be the game. And then you could have Alabama against Texas in a rematch in the Sugar Bowl. You could have Georgia and Florida State. You could, all the other bowls, you could do the same thing, and it would be fine. And everyone would love it. Everyone would be happy. It would be great. Nobody would be upset. Oh, my gosh, Florida State, why didn't we make the national championship? Oh, well, we just get to play in the Orange Bowl or whatever bowl they're playing in, the Cotton Bowl. I don't know which bowl they're playing in. But, nobody would be – you might be upset for a little bit, but the problem now with this playoff is the only thing that matters is the playoff. So, and which naturally, of course, that's the only thing. Who cares about, the Cotton Bowl this year? Who cares about the Orange Bowl? It doesn't matter. Which if you were to take a time machine and go back to 2013, back when, Michigan State was a good football team, if you were to tell them that the Rose Bowl, well, this year the Rose Bowl, I guess, matters, but if you were to tell them the Rose Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Orange Bowl, those bowls are pointless. Who cares? Nobody's going to care about them in 10 years. You would be insane. People would call you insane, and it turns out Time Traveler would be right. Like we've already devalued bowls to the point where only the playoff matters, which means we have to expand the playoffs. And that's where we basically are just in the NFL on Saturdays. College football used to be this unique thing where at the end of the season, everybody, if you won 6 games, everybody is playing in a bowl game. And some of the bowl games are bad, like, the Buffalo Wild Wings or the Red Box Bowl or the Pinstripe Bowl or what have you. But some of the bowls are obviously historic. The Fiesta Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, all these bowls. These used to be the cream of the crop. And even if you weren't a national champion, if you were playing on a New Year's Six Bowl, it was as if you were, essentially. It was the closest thing to your Super Bowl, right? And it's just totally gone away with the playoff. It's just totally gone away. Where you have players opting out. You have players transferring out of their school before their bowl game. To me, the body was already dead. College football was already dead. It was already just a show. It was always just about, TV networks and what's going to be the better game. And ultimately, if I had to be a betting man, yeah, I think Michigan-Alabama is going to be the better game than if Michigan were to play Florida State or Alabama were to play Florida State or whatever combination of, playoff you wanted to do. Yeah, I think Alabama-Michigan would probably be better. Now, this is the thing that gets some people upset. Because people say, oh, well, people thought Michigan was going to be TCU. Oh, well, people thought, Ohio State or Clemson was going to be Ohio State or what have you in 2020. Yeah, sure. I mean, people thought all sorts of things. But the problem is not like the playoff committee is given basically the impossible task of trying to figure out what will be, number one, the best game, because that's ultimately, like, people don't want to say it, people don't want to admit this, but ultimately that is what matters to people. We don't want another 60 bomb dropped on a national championship game. That's embarrassing for the product. It's embarrassing for the schools that have to play in that. Like, it's just not good. And they don't want that to happen. So rather than having an objective metric, which, again, I think they should just have an objective metric if they're going to go the route of playoff. But rather than doing that, they're sort of, stuck in both worlds with this 14 playoff format, which is why I'm glad they're expanding, in so much as it is the only way if you want to do a playoff. And again, I don't want to do a playoff. I would love to just go back to BCS and number 1 ranked team and the number 2 ranked team, they play in the national championship. And all the other New Year's Six bowls, they're the whipped cream on top of the slice of pie. That's what that is. It's just everybody loves it. And even the mid-tier bowl, even the Capital One Bowl, even the Blockbuster Bowl, and the James Earl Jones Bowl. I don't know, maybe he gets a bowl. Why not? Like, it was all just this unique thing. Like, bowl season used to be so much fun, and now it's just like, oh, is the 4th string quarterback playing for Pitt? Oh, okay. Do they have their starting quarterback? No. Okay. Is the run? No. And even when it's the top of the cream of the crop, right? Even when it's the Cotton Bowls of the world and the Orange Bowls of the world and the Fiesta Bowls of the world, nobody cares. Nobody cares. I don't think people particularly care. I think it's one of those things where people will put it on, right? Like, I don't know, it's a weekend, it's New Year's Eve weekend. Yeah, sure. There's college football on. Let's check out Florida State, Georgia. And it's like, nobody really cares about the result. Nobody really cares about because it's like, oh, well, Carson Beck's not going to play, or, Brock Bowers isn't going to play, or, Keon Coleman's not going to play. Like, who cares? It's basically just like it's anybody's game. And yeah, sure, maybe you get a nice trophy, and maybe you can get a cool sweatshirt or a hat, but basically, unless you're the national champion or unless you're in the playoff, nobody really cares at this point. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think it is just the reality of what college football has become. And it's run by TV, and it's for TV. You might as well have Vince McMahon running the scripts. Like, you might as well. Like, I feel, but at least WWE is forthright about its fakeness. That's all I'll say about that. Hey there, what you just watched was actually a clip from a larger show that we do every Tuesday night. What are you doing Tuesday night? Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the like button so that you don't miss out on any more of our weekly shows every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see you there.